Good morning, good evening, good night, everybody is. So we have people joining in this group from Chicago. We have Doug from Chicago. We have James and me in Hong Kong, and we have Shafeela in Toronto. We have panelists from three parts of the world, and we have guests from or attendees from Asia, different countries in Asia. We have attendees here from Middle East, in India, in US, of course, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, everywhere you can think of. We have from Canada, and we have some Europeans too. So uh, interesting. It's going to be an interesting discussion. Thank you for everybody for joining, and thank you to James, Doug, and Shafeela for coming as panelists on this today's discussion about COVID scams and how to do due diligence on suppliers to avoid COVID scams. I'm going to introduce all of the panelists and a little bit about Buyhive, and then we'll jump into discussions. So first off, we have James. James comes with 2 decades of experience in banking and the financial sector, and he is the general manager of Dun& and Bradstreet Hong Kong. Dun& Bradstreet is one of the world's largest data and data analytics companies that provides backgrounds and informations about suppliers. And I'll have James talk more about Dun& Bradstreet and what Dun& Bradstreet data can help in terms of due diligence. Dun& Bradstreet is also a valued partner of Buyhive, and we use Buyhive. Buyhive uses resources of Dun& Bradstreet for uh, for doing due diligence on suppliers, and I hope we can share that with others. We have Doug. Doug is over 20 years of sourcing expertise and its sourcing experience in different industries and different sectors. He's worked with some large brands and large sectors all over the world. Uh, we, uh, we have seen what Doug does on social media. He's been very active in he's been very active in educating a lot of the business sector on the issues of the sourcing industry. So that's great. And then we have Shafeela, who actually got into the business last year of the PPE sourcing because of the COVID crisis, and has successfully sourced all kinds of PPEs, especially gloves, during the last year because of her family connections in Malaysia, Singapore, and I'm looking forward to learn from all three of them. All three of them bring very different perspectives, different knowledge sets, and they all will be able to help us learn some new things. I'm going to have a slide in the background so everybody knows what we're talking about. And these are our panelists, just for everybody's information, right? So let me jump in directly. Uh, and you guys, panelists, please feel free to comment and ask me any questions back as well. So let's start with Doug. Doug, what are your checklists for suppliers, or what are the things that you look for, that you kind of look through before you place orders or start working with your suppliers?
Well, for me, Manesh, I have my own people both in Vietnam and Malaysia and China. I've had my own team in China for almost 17 years, so they're super loyal. So, I give them most of the credit for doing all the due diligence at the factory level. They, have worked with me for years and know my criteria. So we actually go and visit a factory. I make sure that I'm either having a WeChat conversation with them or WhatsApp. I get on Zooms with them. We get videos. We have hired QA companies like AQF or even SGS to go and spend a day at a factory to make sure that they have the production lines they say they're going to have, that they have the ability to to fulfill our orders. There's also a couple of credit check companies, not like Dun& Bradstreet, but a little bit more on the local flavor, where you can find out about some of the smaller factories, find out whether they have any claims against them. So we use that a lot in China. I can't pronounce it, otherwise I'd give it to you. but my team uses that a lot in China. In Vietnam, it's a lot easier because it's so much more, so much smaller. And so you really kind of know all the players very quickly. You can get embedded very quickly. But you want to make sure that, they are who they say they are, that they do really have a factory. A lot that goes on right now is they have a factory, but they've taken way too many orders to fill your line. So they can show you great equipment, but they have no capacity because they booked it all. And now they're just trying to raise more money, either to build more lines or things. So you can't just go by the fact that they have a factory and they have equipment. You have to kind of talk around that area, and people will talk. So my kids are really good at finding out from others that are at the factory. Hey, what are these guys like? Have they been shipping on time? Are they for real? And so we do all that due diligence. I also have to feel comfortable with the factory. I have to be able to speak with the owner or manager or a international sales manager. They need to be transparent. They need to be able to get me samples very quickly. So there's a list, but most of it is about connection and also relationship. It has to be real. And I've had factories that have really good production availability, but the owners or whoever I'm dealing with, I just don't feel comfortable with. And so I'll pass, because it doesn't matter whether they have availability if they don't communicate well, or if they're if they just don't work with you well. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't matter. You still might not get their product. So I just think you have to work really closely to be direct as possible, and to have a very translucent um, relationship.
That's great, Doug. And Shafeela, from your side, what do you do? I know you told me that you have family and you send in family, as well as you have resources in, especially in Malaysia, that you're using for your glove sourcing.
Similar to what Doug said, I would like to add that it is about relationship and it's about feeling comfortable. I usually on the surface is who, what, where, and how. I have to feel comfortable. I can count on my hand who I work with, the manufacturers, allocation holders, and factory, and how Doug already had touched based on it. You can see past performance, which is important for me, which is having an allocation is one thing, but having to pull out gloves because factories have overpromised, and the orders are already backed up. And it because it's a nationwide demand for gloves, specifically speaking. So they are over promising when they're putting out a performa invoice when you just pay down with the purchase order. So you have to make sure that you're trusting their word. And anytime, so how I do my due diligence is it's different layers of it. And I do rely on my team, Kunalin, who is in UK, and also Danny, who's in Singapore, and Malaysia, Thailand. So I do rely on them a lot, and Vietnam. When they give me a go ahead on certain brands and manufacturing, once they have visited and it's the final step, that's when I'm able to put it out there to my buyers, because there's a deeper dive into what a supplier is saying and is how true, how real it is. And then there is a surface level of just checking who, what, where, and what the company is registered under. What was their past experience like? And if I have, my comfort level is starting smaller orders with any manufacturer first. So not just dive into the million boxes, do a trial order. But verification, it has to be that somebody I trust in Asia, looking at whether business is registered and how many successfully they've been able to pull out the gloves. So past experience. And then finding out they are saying who they are. Are they a registered company? So asking questions is always helpful. And when they are all saying no, we are not going to share the information, and they're not as open, then I'm just usually saying same thing what Doug said. It has to be a comfort level. So I just stick with the same manufacturers, but it does take me a longer time to do the checklist of going through how to verify them. first on a surface, and then the deeper dive into checking the certificate, checking if these glove decks that they have, pretty decks now, every week it's a new deck that comes up. Do these certificates actually belong to the particular brand they're representing? Are they the allocation holder? Are they the distributor? Are they the resellers? Or are they manufacturers? So there has been times, just like what Doc said, does the factories exist? There has been a time where I've been offered glove and I've sent somebody to go uh, find out if this factory exists, but actually it's empty space, not even equipment set up. It's just a board outside, um, but it doesn't actually exist. So there has been times that way, but it's a very relationship based industry. What I've learned so far. So I've had to do the verification from Asia side because me being in Canada, I'm not there and we can't travel either as freely as it was due to COVID.
So thank you for that. I will share with you that so for Buyhive, we started Buyhive with the objective of providing trusted and transparent sourcing. But and we have been in the industry for 20 something years, and we know the industry, we have connections, etc. We've had experience our own tough experiences where we have a few million that we have lost because of the of actually missing out on 1 or 2 points in the checklist, and that's why the checklist is very important. And we are of course learning, and everybody, I know that Doug had some money stuck, and I know you had some delays and problems, and we all face that. I actually have I mean at Buyhive we have had issues where we thought a supplier would deliver and they wouldn't deliver, and we had to take personal loans to just return the money to the clients that we took the money from on time, just because we felt so bad for it. And even then we pissed off the client, we lost the client and all that. So we know, and we don't none of the people in the industry would like to cheat anybody if they really want to do the business. But these things are happening, and I think later on in the discussion I would like to ask each one of you on your experiences on this topic, and we'll come to that. But yeah, I mean the checklist is super important. um, as we talk about checklist, one of the most important part of the checklist is the data and the data analytics of it, and that's why we have James here. And I wanted to ask James, from your perspective, not just from the sourcing industry but also your expertise in the financial sector and being the general manager of Dun& Bradstreet Hong Kong, what do you think, and how is data important? How is data analytics important? How can we use that to make better decisions? All of us in this business, how can we use that for making better decisions in sourcing?
Hi, Minesh. Thanks a lot for that question. Yeah, I actually come from 20 plus years in the financial industry. I worked in New York. I worked in Hong Kong. I spent most of my time in the capital markets. I traded stocks, bonds, derivatives. The industry is just dominated by data. It's dominated by data. It's dominated by technology. And data and technology is revolutionizing the industry. It's making things. It's creating innovations. It's making the business better, faster, cheaper. So that's what's happening in that industry. And actually, from Dun & Bradstreet's point of view, we actually get to see companies all over the Hong Kong economy. And it's just happening the same to those companies in the Hong Kong economy as well, especially in the sourcing, supply chain businesses. So data is something that is needed to make business decisions, however you get it, whether it's face-to-face, whether you get it by traveling, whether meetings. Data is extremely valuable for making key business decisions and sourcing decisions. Right now, two things are happening. One is that, well, obviously the pandemic has impacted the ability to collect all the data that you need in many ways. So less face-to-face time than you would like, less traveling than you would like. In addition, technology is opening up possibilities that just weren't really there before. So technology platforms, e-commerce platforms is now allowing you to connect to interesting but supplies that you don't know. interest. It's good to have options, but you don't know them. And that's where data comes in. Data becomes even more important in this situation. And data has two elements, I would say. One is what is the quality of it? You simply cannot make decisions based on supply telling you how good they are. You actually have to have very good quality data that's very official. Data where the data supply chain is well recognized. It comes from official sources. It is sources that you can trust, government sources, other sources that you can trust and make business decisions on, where you're risking your own capital. And the other is quantity. You have to simply the industry is now global. So you have to have the most data. You have to have data everywhere, in every place where you possibly could need data. Data, I just want to let everyone know that, that there's a wealth of data out there, wealth of trusted data out there that's available if you seek it, where you can make, it can greatly help your decision making, your business decision making, your sourcing decision making. So for starters, you have to be able to identify the company. Who is this company? Many companies might have very similar sounding names. Who are they really? So you need a very good global identifier. Most of the industry and governments have standardized around the DUNS number, which is a D&B identifier. So if you go to the US government and go to their website, you go to like a Walmart or Apple, they've all standardized around the DUNS number. You can if you go to their websites, they'll ask for it. And it's having it identified is more important than you can imagine, because it really differentiates who exactly are you dealing with, who are you signing with. It's incredibly important to identify who exactly they are. After that, there's a wealth of information. We can broadly categorize them into compliance information and financial and credit information. So compliance information is what you think it is. You need to be able to know, you have to be able to assess, are they going to be trouble for you? Are they on many lists of known criminals, known fraudsters? Are they in the news? Is there a lot of adverse media on them? Are they always in the news for something negative? Or are they in the litigation records for litigation that you just simply want nothing to do with? All of those compliance type of data elements would be very useful if you were making decisions, all sorts of decisions, whether to get involved with the supplier or how much you want to get involved with the supplier. So that takes us to the next broad group of data elements, like credit and financial data. So how financially sound is this supplier, this counterparty? How, if you were to do a small trade versus a big trade, that would be quite important. And if you could obtain their financial statements, that would greatly help in that kind of due diligence and that kind of decision making. And there's just so many data elements. Also, D&B does analytics as well. It's a global leader in data and analytics. So there's a variety of financial scores and other scores that kind of indicate their financial strength, their impact in adverse conditions. Like, for example, we have a COVID score, a COVID-19 score, a COVID impact score, where you can see this for an individual company, how impacted them specifically, their industry, from COVID-19. And that might help with your decision-making, or decision-making between 2 or 3 companies where you're deciding between them.
Yeah.
A few other data.
More questions for you on that as we go ahead, James. So I'll ask you more pointed questions on that topic a little bit further.
No problem.
On that, Doug, you have been researching a lot of data, and I know that you've been putting together a lot of shipping data to figure out what is happening, who's shipping, basically publicly available data, but you're structuring it very well and you're putting it out in reports, which is amazing. And do you want to share how you're doing it, what databases people should be looking at? And this is not something that is hidden. You just have to know where to look for it.
Right. Hey, I just want to mention something about something that James had said um, with Dun and Bradstreet. So tons of companies in the last year have pivoted, or tons of people have pivoted from their old business to PPE, and there's no shortage of new PPE companies, medical this, PPE that. Look, I'm doing it as well, but Dunn's is really good for going back. If you're working with somebody that just opened a business 6 or 8 or 12 months ago that's getting involved heavily in PPE, what was their company before? Because their company before should have a Dunn's number. I get my previous company run on me all the time, and people should do that. So all these people have a background. You're not gonna get a lot from a company that's only been around for 4 or 5 or 6 months. But all these people were doing stuff before. So I think it's a good point. I just want to bring that up when James is talking about doing your due diligence on the Dunn's number. And I think we should go back at some point and talk about where you get that information.
Yeah.
But as far as importing information, look, there's several software, there's several platforms out there. I belong to Import Key. I think it costs me, I don't know, I want to say $250 a month. It's the one that my customs broker of 2.5 decades recommended me. I feel very comfortable with the platform, but it produces a lot of information in a CSV format. So it's pretty chunky data. And so all I do is I try to whittle it down so that it makes the most sense to the people that I'm trying to share it with. In this case, most of the time what I'm sharing it for is to educate the people that still think that there's 500 million bazillion gloves coming into the US on a monthly basis. And so we've talked about these numbers last time, and I can talk about them again, but it's very simple. There's 330 billion gloves made right now. That's like 11 or 15% more than last year. That's 3.3 billion boxes a month. That's 3.3 billion boxes a year. That's 250 million boxes a month. And we use about 15% of it. So that's about 40 to 50 to 60,000 boxes a month, million boxes a month coming in. And that's all that comes in. So I try to show it and kind of and streamline it so people can really understand the data. So it's total, how many boxes came in and who were the top 25, 50s, 100 buyers that brought them in. So that you can clearly see that Halyard every month is bringing in 3 to 4 million boxes. And and Ansel and Amex and all those guys and what they're bringing in. Only like the top 7 or 8 or 9 people are bringing in more than 1 million boxes. So I put out there mostly to debunk all the ridiculousness that somebody can bring in 10 million boxes a month or 20 million boxes a month, even 5 million boxes a month. Hell, if you're bringing in 1 million boxes a month, you're a champion. 500,000 boxes, you're a freaking champion. Even 100,000. So yeah, that and I get that data. All that data is out there, and it's all out there free. You can find out if somebody's brought in gloves before, right? Somebody's telling you, listen, I'm a glove guy, or I'm a glove gal. Well, you have to be importing it. Now, I will say, look, sometimes I have my customs broker as the import record, and sometimes I have buyers that pick up FOB, and so it might not look like I bring in as much as I bring in. That's fine. You should be able to explain all that when you're talking to somebody.
You will have a proof of bill of lading from the trade that you've done, so you can show that. So that there is data available that can be there.
So there's tons of data available about importing.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of others. There's a couple other sites, so you can look them up. But the one I use is Import Key. I think there's Import Genius, and there's another one that starts with a P. I can't remember. But
Panjiva.
Definitely good sites.
Panjiva has that data too.
Yeah, Panjiva. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yep.
So Shafeela, do you want anything to share on this, or did you do any data analytics, or mostly relied on family connections How did you
No,
go?
well, I do look at, I do rely on them, but I also have to get involved in, because I come in when it's time to close the sales. So for me, I do mostly X works and FOB transactions as well. But when I'm buying it on the SGS and BOLs, the titles are transferred to my end buyers, the exit buyers that are buying it. But I have the factory visitations, affidavits from factories for the stocks, and SGS report, Intertac, or FIAs that I'm using. One question I do have for Doug, the Indian reserves, have you gotten that response back that no, we could be, because they don't post the data? Have you
Yeah.
gotten that at all? Like,
Yeah,
how
so
do we
let's talk
check?
about that for a sec, because I get that a lot about Indian reservations, air cargo, and also government. So is it possible that the Indian reservations aren't showing up on these US imports? I suppose so, but listen, I can't imagine that they're bringing in the lion's share of nitrile gloves. And the same thing I would say about bringing them in by air. There's a lot of talk about people bringing gloves in by air, but it's not really happening. It's
No.
just not. It's
No.
$4.50 a box on top of an already expensive market. It would be really, really bad business to bring in gloves by air. I think a few, some are coming in, and then we have government. And so I'll say this about that. If they're government and they're bringing them in and they're bringing them in black ops, I don't know where they're going, because there was just a report coming out saying that we only had like 7 million boxes in the surplus. And even if they are supplying FEMA or some government entity, what difference does it make? I mean, you can't get your hands on them, you can't buy them, you can't sell them, who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and this talk about air, it's all BS. I mean, if you're really bringing in a million boxes, maybe you sent one container first because you needed it urgently and you got it in by air. But it doesn't make sense that somebody's getting 1 million by air. It's stupid. It's not, doesn't exist.
Right. Even a
Honest,
container is going to
yeah.
cost you versus, I mean, it's high right now versus $7,000 shipping it. You're talking about
$120,000.
$120,000 to fly in 30,000 boxes. Like, that's just dumb business. And if people are doing it, I don't know. It's dumb.
It's taking the same time, to be honest with you. The airway, like, I have one of the supplier that I work really close with, and I get to sell their OTG Canada gloves. Their airway, like, they had booked it to fly it into Montreal, and it's been delayed for now 2.5 weeks. It's been booked. So to me, it takes the same time, because it's the delays are inevitable. Like, it's delays both ways right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me come back to Dun & Bradstreet on this before we move on to the specifics of those trade things. We got excited by that, but I really want to learn from James in terms of the data tools that that Dun & Bradstreet has, especially if you can talk about Duns as well as DRS, and how you get that data, where you get the data, how does it collated, and how can people use that data? What is free, what is paid? If you can talk to that also, James, that would be great for people.
Sure. So I was imagining this as from a user's perspective. So when Shafeela was describing how her team uses data in this process, I was imagining that. So depends on the user, depends on how you want to consume data. If you want to do your due diligence by receiving reports, and kind of the report helps you a lot, that's available. You can receive data in that format. It will just show all the compliance data. It would show credit and financial scoring. It would show like who owns this, who they are, their identity, who are their directors, how many employees they have, that kind of information, all in a report. Or if for some companies, they're ready to move to the digital platform, where they have a digital platform and it's a tool that they can log in and search companies, monitors companies, what is a supplier that was good in the past, may no longer be so because of circumstances, maybe because of COVID-19. For really big organizations who need this kind of information, they can also consume data through APIs, where the computer system has all the technology, has all the interface, has all the analytics, and they simply just need data. And APIs can grab that data from D&B. Also, for those unique to like a technology platform, for some, it would greatly expedite trust in technology, trust in a technology platform with a product like DRS. So DRS is our credibility check where Dun & Bradstreet will go and evaluate and certify a company based on many criteria, including on-site inspection. The company would receive the trusted seal, the trusted DRS seal, and on a technology platform, that would be really helpful, that everyone, users, buyers and sellers, can trust each other, where speed and working with just a variety of buyers and sellers, that kind of trust would be very helpful. So that's just a taste of the products out there. And D&B is the biggest in supply chain data, but there are other suppliers, of course, and you can receive your data in these very many formats.
Yeah. So I want to add DRS in there, James, and basically what DRS is doing, especially right now in China, is basically trying to get much more in-depth financial and compliance data about the suppliers. They provide information such as past trades. They provide information such as the past, if they had some defaults, if they've had any legal cases, and who is the promoters. There is information about the business registration. So DRS is a tool that they have developed in China for this. And I think with DRS, people can buy those reports from the Dun & Bradstreet website and download full detailed reports. So that is a very good tool as well. And we at Buyhive have surely tied up with Dun & Bradstreet to work on this and get our suppliers. So Buyhive has about 400 plus SKUs of PPEs right now, and we have 100 plus qualified suppliers on there, and we are working with Dun & Bradstreet to get them to have the DRS so that we can actually look at the information, and our buyers can look at that information and make wise decisions on these. And we surely think the future, just because of after COVID, it's going to be relied on this kind of transparent and detailed information about suppliers that is necessary for us to make smart decisions. And if we don't do it right now, we are all going to not just PPE, but any kind of sourcing, any product that you're sourcing is going to face similar troubles when the demand for that product goes up, because the only way to guard yourself or protect yourself is through looking at historical data and seeing what people have done. And I switch a little bit from data and this financial data to doing other documentation check. But me personally, I do a lot of LinkedIn research on the suppliers as well as buyers. And a lot of times we've seen, I mean, I've got in trouble with buyers as well as suppliers where there was not data available. And I'm sure you guys have wasted some time also with that kind of people. If it would be good, especially Doug and Shafeela, you could share some personal experience and what you, without naming people obviously and companies, but you can share about what has happened and what went wrong, because that is something to learn for all of us. And I'll share my experience also in a bit. But what are the different documentations that you check on that, on top of doing the background checks on social media?
Go ahead, Shafeela.
I'll let you go first, Doug. I know you have more to say, and then I'll piggyback on that.
All right, fair enough.
Go first.
Look, you can get a lot of information off of LinkedIn, and it's fantastic. And I use it heavily. I look at their posts. I'll read 6 months of their posts and see where they made a pivot or see what they were doing before, see how they interacted with people. I will look at who their activity, who they're liking and things like that. It gives you a really good glimmer into what somebody's about. And I like to look. I'm a seller, so I'm not a buyer. So I come at this from a different place. But as a seller, look, I talk to 150 people before I close a deal. It used to be. Now I have a clientele, and I really don't go outside it too much. But in the beginning, I would speak to 100 people on Zoom meetings before I would, close a deal. Zoom, I feel, is an amazing tool, and you need to be face to face with people. We can't travel right now, and so the next best thing is getting people on the phone and getting people on a face to face video and learning about them and asking about them and asking direct questions. What are they using this PPE for? Why did they get into this business? What were they doing before? Why do they want to be in it? Is it the right reasons? Are they gougers? I don't want to be involved in those people. So I start with a background on LinkedIn, then I move to a Zoom call right away. I want to get in front of them and find out whether they're people. And I bet you there's people that are watching this that have had a Zoom with me. And after 5 minutes, I'll say, look, we're just not going to be able to do business because I just don't get a good feel about it. I don't want to go any further. So I go from due diligence on LinkedIn to immediately to a Zoom call, and I vet that way, and I go with my gut.
Similar to Doug, I look at LinkedIn post. I look at previous activities. I see if they have had any recommendations and what are people recommending them for, whether it's what they were involved in pre-PPE or whether it's now the PPE, what they're doing. When I started in April, when it started in March, it was similar to Doug. I was talking to everybody and anybody, and I had legitimate, manufacturers and allocations and factories that I was working with. But there was it felt like I was talking to 1,000 people. You said 100 people, Doug, but I felt like I was talking to 1,000 people. And then everybody's roles were all misleading, whether they were brokers or facilitators. It would need a definition what each and everyone's role was. I have been fortunate enough where, I have my own end buyers and the exit buyers. So I focus a lot on that, but I do look at a lot of what their posts are like and what they're commenting on, what are they buying, and what are similar to Doug, what you said, their activities. The other thing I look at how if they're bullying others too, because I don't like either when no, come on, not
Doug is in trouble.
no, Doug, that's not what I mean. Like, sometimes people like Doug at least have evidence. Most like Doug, that I have talked. Yeah. So he has evidence, but sometimes when people are just bullying each other without any evidence, concrete evidence, I'm just a strong believer that everybody's trying. Not everybody is in a comfortable position as what we all must be, right? So for me, it's never been about the money. So similar to what Doug said, like when people are trying to close one deal and become billionaires, those are not the people I'm going to work with, because I keep my margin levels to a reasonable point. And you have to also see what the seller is going to think about us. Like if everybody's marking crazy amount of commission. So for me, it's not about becoming billionaire overnight with one sale. For me, it's about, working and getting the exit buyer the price that they want. One thing that I have learned, and I think most of the people will benefit from this, is that when you get exit buyer and exit seller, the actual seller on the phone or Zoom call together, they will always talk about the price. So all that commission that's marked up, it's going to come up. So you have to be prepared for that. I've been on calls, where I get people out of the way just to get both of them on the call, and I'm the only one on the call. And honestly, it comes up. So when it's like not reasonable and it's a, extensions and roles like 12 months contract, 6 months contract, just remember the buyer, no one's going to want to pay thousands of dollars and millions of dollars in commission for the rest of their lives. So keep it reasonable. But I do similar to what Doug said. I look at activities. I look at what crazy comments they must be writing, or what are they promoting, and especially if they're promoting brands that didn't pass my due diligence, and their their certificates didn't check out, and they're the one fully wholeheartedly are promoting them. Then I'm like, I would rather just stay away from. So for me, it's integrity above making money. But I have been openly talking to others and educating, because I truly feel that it may be that people just need some guidance, because everybody, the industries, other industries have been hurting. So everybody's trying to make livelihood. So sometimes it's the consulting, like these panels, it helps educating what to check, how to look, and how to verify a supplier. So hope that helps.
No, I mean, I have to share that we looked at a lot of our buyers, right? We look at their backgrounds, and even the suppliers, we look at their backgrounds and stuff, right? And that's how Doug and I connected first time on LinkedIn, because I think we both checked out each other's backgrounds and said, okay, we can trust this guy knows what he's talking about. And initially I thought, oh, why is this guy commenting so much on people's posts? But then I got deeper and started looking at what he was posting. And like you said, he was posting real data. He was looking at the information and analyzing it and making smart comments. But then there are other people who only keep claiming that I have 5 million OTG. I get emails from different companies, which are just all the time saying, I have 2 million OTG of KC 500s. I have 3 million of this, and minimum order quantity of 5 million. And I was like, okay, these guys have lost it, and they don't know what they're talking about. And not just gloves. I mean, in the gowns, we saw that in masks. Seen that in all different products so far. And it's really terrible that these guys, and I hope some of them are listening, because I hope they can understand what they're putting makes them look stupid. It makes them, people can see through it, and people who really know the business know that this is not real. This doesn't happen. And another thing I think for all the middlemen and brokers, etc., that are listening right now, the thing to do is to set up relationships with clients that are regular clients that are going to buy every month for 6 months or 12 months, and try to build relationships like that, rather than making and understand that they have the capability of doing it. If there is a broker that you're dealing with, you are a broker yourself, and then there is another broker, there's another broker, it's not sustainable. It doesn't work. Maybe you'll get one deal out of it, but it will not work for long. You got to get to the end buyer, and you need to work with the end buyer who is there. I don't know if you've seen these NCNDAs that have come to my table with like 20 people on there. I was like, oh, what the hell, what am I signing, and who's these people, why am I giving my passport information here?
I couldn't
Never
agree
do
with
that.
you. I couldn't agree with you more. But Doug, you know,
So-
I've already said that to you. I envy you for having so much content on LinkedIn, because I would love to be the one posting, but I always forget. It's like back of the mind thing. But you, bravo, honestly, keep going.
James,
That's
just
my hobby. I have a lot of fun. Hey, hang on just a minute though, because I think on this topic, Shafeela is like a great poster child for what we were just talking about, right? So in the very beginning, because I do remember talking to her probably 9 months ago, a couple of different times, and really she didn't, she had buyers, right? I think she had buyers, and she was looking for, for me for product and stuff.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is that over the months, I've seen her posts and I've seen what she's done. And then I had the pleasure of talking to her on the phone, I don't know, just a couple of weeks ago. And her level of knowledge, her level of expertise, her level of understanding in the industry has grown by 1,000%, right? So that's, hats off to the amount of effort that she's put into it, right?
Yes.
There are still people that have been in this business for like a year that still don't know any of the basics about this business. Because they have no desire to learn. They're just, all they care about is, trying to find two people to put together, make some money, and next, where the people that are going to do well in this business, and Shafeela is really a poster child for this, and that's why I called her out on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, because I've seen her from the beginning to now, and it's quite impressive. And that's where people, if you want to be in a business, you want to be good at something, and freaking get good at it. Just you should be able to find the answers yourself. You should be independent and stuff. She's done a great job of that. And so,
Thank you.
that's a great a testament to her ability to want to get in the do really good with the business. So.
Yeah, I mean,
I truly enjoyed it.
sorry.
Yeah.
Shafeela,
Sorry, go ahead.
that we are not in a structured industry anymore, right? We're not in a sector that used to be at all organized. All the supply chains were disrupted. And these products actually, if you see the production, like our last discussion with Rainer from Top Glove, they are building about 50% more capacity in this year. They wouldn't have built it if there was no COVID. And at the same time, there are a lot of people, in all fairness, a lot of people who think they can do sourcing just because they see some people making money from it, or people saying that they're making money from it, but they don't have enough understanding. I really want to, very strongly put it there, that if you don't understand international sourcing and you don't have the right connections to do it locally in the markets that you're sourcing from, don't get into it. No matter it is PPE or any other trade, it's not easy. You can burn, you can really waste a lot of time and energy. And I know also that some people have lost their savings, all their savings in this business, and it's serious. People have put mortgage houses. They've refinanced houses and stuff, and they've lost all that money as well. And that's terrible. It's really terrible.
I think few things I would share, because again, I don't have as vast experience as you all do in supply chain. I started my company, it's coming up to 1 year now. For me, it was learning. That's the part I enjoyed. I got to talk to manufacturers, how many gloves each line's pumping, all of that. Those were all learning. So I quite enjoy that. But the most important thing that I am trying to educate people I talk to is stick with the SOP, the comfort level, and try to do 98% of your own due diligence. Don't trust the person that's bringing you a deal from WhatsApp. If somebody's forwarding you a message that says they're the mandate, you're 6 ways down and you're still forwarding that message, but you haven't picked up the call. I haven't responded to messages since September. Okay, I'm the worst at it, because if someone's not coming from referred from a already sorted broker or a friend of mine in PPE industry, or somebody that I've known past COVID, if they're not bringing that person up, I don't have the ability to get on these Zoom calls. I'm very focused on my transactions that are closing. I'm focused on getting my shipments out. So those are the things I focus on, is how much due diligence have you done too? So don't just rely on forward messages. My one thing that I do tell people when I do get on a call is, how much do you know? Have you transacted with them? What are you trusting? What are you bringing on the table? And then the other thing is, when I give them something that this is what an allocation holder has, it always comes back as a different, because it's over promising. It's very hard to work with Asia just because of the demand that they are under and the pressure that they're under. And they're the kings, and it's not going to go anywhere. So it's important for you to understand how the sellers are working, what do they need, and stick to that plan. And if you are 6 steps away from the buyer or the supplier, trust me, those deals are not going anywhere. Try and build a relationship even with one supplier or one buyer. And that's the key to success, because if somebody you have closed successfully one transaction with, they're going to continue to come back to you and buy from you, because you have now built that rapport. And that one leads to second buyers, the second to third. So that's just some things I've learned.
That's a good point. I always read, I don't know who has seen Meet the Fockers, but Robert De Niro's Circle of Trust. right? I mean, we all now have, after a year, we have our circle of trust. And again, if somebody doesn't bring me somebody, or somebody doesn't, add somebody, I just don't have time. I have people that know that I could get them gloves, but instead they continue to just bring me deals going, is this one fake? Is this one real? I got to deal with these guys. I could buy 2 containers from these guys. Is this real? Can you check this for me? And I'm like, dude, for 6 months you've been doing this. You could have had 3 containers from me already. But
Correct.
instead, I like your learning block. I don't even understand. I feel like they just want to do it themselves, and I get it, but they're going to get their heads ripped off.
Yeah, I've been, Doug, and thank you for all 3 of you to be in my circle of trust. So
Yeah.
that's really good. Hey, James, from
Yeah, Manesh, I have one additional thing to add. It was really interesting to hear Shafeela show how hard she works to see if she can trust a counterparty, a supplier, or not. And just people should know that there is good data out there, and where data you can verify, data you can say, oh, this is what official sources say is their address. This is what they should have. Here are who their directors are. These shady people, not shady people. Here are their affiliate companies. Are they well-known shady companies or not? So that kind of information is available, and you can just verify against or what industry are they in, and if it's a different industry than what you're talking about, like if you're doing PPE, and that's not what they're listed industry, and you kind of have to ask more questions. But there's a lot of good information for like Shafeela and Doug, and I know they know a lot of data sources to do this due diligence so that they can trust who they're dealing with. One additional thing to add is that on the financial side, of course, there's a lot of financial information, financial scoring to say whether a supplier is capable of delivery of how big an order,
Right.
or payment data or debt collection data, which kind of just says how financially trustworthy is this company? Will they likely deliver? So just add.
Yeah. So I think we talked about this. I'm going to move a little bit. How do you, I mean, from all of your experiences, how do you differentiate between a broker, a trader, a real factory? And do you prefer working with certain types and not working with certain types? And then we're talking about suppliers in this case. And any experience or failures, especially that you've had or wasted time with these kind of people. And I know all of you have different perspectives. And James, from your side, just because, I mean, you're not practically in this, but there is similar things that happen in the finance industry also. So if you can share just from that outside perspective to us.
Sure. In the financial industry, if you cannot identify a fake company, whether a fake supplier or a money launderer, it could mean jail time. It could mean major fines. It could mean major penalties for your company. So in the financial industry, you have to, before you do any business, you have to be able to identify fake companies and whether you can do any business at all. Forget about the P&L. Can you even talk to this company? And so there was, yes, there's data out there, there are tools out there to do exactly this function because it's so important. It's the financial industry has dedicated an incredible amount of resources to do compliance and due diligence and know your customer, which is basically the equivalent of being able to identify fake suppliers in sourcing, and they monitor going forward too. So it's a huge task in the financial industry with major consequences.
Thank you.
But you can do it with the data. You can absolutely be able to tell a lot about the company.
Yeah. And Doug, from your side, what you've seen and what kind of people you've interacted with?
So I work with brokers. I only work with a few of them now, and but I work with a few brokers, but mostly my buyers are end buyers. But I do spend an awful lot of time. A lot of people will say too much time calling out, not just stupid posts on LinkedIn, but people that have actually put together like fairly impressive decks, impressive websites. They're putting together companies and they're just not legit. And I've gotten, I don't know why, but I've gotten really good at being able to figure them out very quickly. There's just some easy things that they all seem to miss all the time. And so sometimes it takes me, 10 minutes, sometimes it takes me 20 minutes to figure out whether they're real or not. But, sooner or later, I find out that, 90% of them, of these OEM brands, are just not real.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with what certificates they're using. Like all these OEM brands aren't factories. And so the gloves have to be made somewhere, unless you're okay with repacks. And there's nothing wrong with repacks. It's been done in nitrile for years. It's not been done as much as it's being done right now, but it was always done. There was always companies selling some of their line off to other people to repack under their own brand. So that's not new, it's just gone to new heights. But the other problem with repacks now is that they're using defective gloves and they're using used gloves. So repacks now have, that used to be like brand new gloves off a factory line, are now like rejects. They can have, up to 40 or 50% of the gloves are defective in some way, rips, torn, missing fingers, no beads at the end, all sorts of different weird things. And it's up to these repackers to go through them and get those out. Well, they're going to let some slip through. So that's one. And number two, they're hand counting. I know somebody that just got a container and they went in and counted and there was not a box that had over 60 gloves in them. And that's huge fraud. And they might be able to pass that down the road and nobody's going to sit down and count them. And it's hard to tell the difference between 60 and 100 just by, spitballing with your eye, but that's happening. So, but getting back to these fake documents, it's what's the factory that's making these gloves? Where are the gloves coming from? Like everybody continues to forget that part of it. People are using the same documents for like 500 brands, and they're using the same 510Ks that don't match anything. There's an enormous amount of 510K fraud. It kills me because 510K isn't a requirement. And since I've done a bunch of different videos on it, I put out a lot of different information on it. Everyone knows it. And it seems like since I put out so much information, now even more than ever, everything has to be 510K. Like, I don't even understand that. Like, it should be the opposite. But now 510K is like the most sought after. And 90% of the ones I'm seeing in the market are fraudulent. They're just not using the right 510K information. So that's easy.
Yeah.
So if they're not
You're
using
so
the right,
right. Sorry, Doug. They don't check the ASTM and they're checking the 510K, and I just don't get it. Why don't you understand that the 510K doesn't make a glove medical or chemo?
have nothing to do with anything, right? Yes. Because they don't know and they don't want to learn. It's a pre-marketing notification that goes to the FDA that says, hey, I'm going to start selling PPE Advantage nitrile gloves. Is it okay? And I get a K number.
Yeah.
And that's only for PPE Advantage gloves, but it doesn't mean my gloves are medical or industrial or food service or goat milking. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So anyway, so 510K shouldn't be a big deal, but it's become a big deal because people are uneducated. Same thing as 4 mil. But paperwork is important. The ASTM report should match the factory, should match the glove, should match the 510K, and everything should be pretty much a white line. We're in a little bit of a gray market situation because the only real true white lines are from big factories like Arli, like Inco, like Hungray, KC, and you can't get production from them. So sometimes there's a little bit of a jagged line. This guy did a joint venture with this guy. He's using his lines. Okay, if it says that on the box, you should be able to explain that chain, that line, right? So there's that. Then there's just, the amounts that they say they can produce are not real. The websites, are like a week old. The people that you talk to seem very dodgy. When you ask them for I've done a couple of videos on this and I just have notes, right? Can you get me a sample? Can you get it to me tomorrow? And Manesh, you and I go back and forth on that. Whenever you've asked for samples, they're there the next day. Whether I'm sending them from China, Malaysia, or my closet. No path performance. Like if you brought gloves in before, and I've said this before, you should be wearing that as a badge of honor, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to be hiding BOLs. You should be like, yeah, man, I got 30 BOLs. Take a look.
Yeah.
I open those, we're completely transparent about that. I'll show you every single thing I brought in. And you don't have to do a deal with me first. You don't have to like sign an LC with me first, but we should be very transparent about their BOLs. Can they give you references of people that they've delivered gloves or masks or gowns and had a good experience? And they shouldn't just be one, should be 5, 10, 15. The documents belong to other factories. Did you do a background check on them? I know some people now that are actually doing full-on background checks on people. Somebody passed some information on to me the other day and said, look, this person was busted for cocaine, 12 years ago. I'm like, well, okay, well, that was 12 years ago, but okay. I'm not sure that makes him a candidate for nitro fraud, but thanks for bringing that to my attention. I'll be the first one to tell you I had a DUI when I was 20 years old. So anybody wants to hold that against me. So those type of things in the paperwork and in just being really transparent with the information.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Shafeela?
I got for and stuff.
I look at similar to I look at the decks. I look at the certificates. Who do they belong to? The ones that I see the most are SGMP, healthy gloves, and medical gloves. They are being used in every single deck. I get about 10 to 15 pretty decks, and it's because the broker and the other thing I want to touch base on broker. I literally work with 6 brokers, or I'd say 6 to 7 brokers, and the rest I would just take a referral if they are coming from one of the referral brokers that I work with. But the most I come across is SGMP, medical gloves, and Shuntai too. That was the last one, right? We were talking about.
Shuntai gets a lot, and Gill out of China as well.
Correct. So you just have to ask, and OEM is not a bad thing. I do have a demand for non-medical buyers for janitorial companies, Staples Canada, like all of, and some of the local buyers, they buy non-medical from me. So it's fine. OEM is fine for me. However, you have to be able to explain, did they allow you to use their certificate? Is there an OEM agreement in place? And those are some of the things you can verify with the manufacturers directly. Don't use the emails that are on the OEM agreement. Do a quick Google search to see if that email is actually a made up email. Like, as I said, I'm the first one to say I'm not a tech savvy person, but if I am, the scammers have gotten so smart. They know the ins and out, what looks pretty to the eyes. So the decks are getting even more pretty. Like, Doug, you said it takes you 10 minutes. For me, I'm like, wow, they're so genius. It's like, it's getting prettier and prettier. It looks good to my eyes to see all of these glove brands coming up. So there's a lot of times that people that have been in the business longer than, of course, my company is going to be 1 year coming up, but what I'm noticing is people are looking at some of the documents like TUV report, and they'll say, well, look at the TUV report. It's right there. So it verifies it. No, what it doesn't verify is the logo, the logo that you're using. They're saying they have nothing to do with this brand. Their certificates don't verify. This brand doesn't check out. And TUV reports is not saying it's an OEM. That's just them counting the gloves and checking and doing the testing on what they're asked to do. So you have to still do the background check, but it surprises me the type of due diligence really smart businessmen are doing, because I'll share a recent example where I was ready to put down my money for the MSCS brand, and it was brought to me by one of the supplier that it hadn't worked out 2 of the transactions, but he had returned me money for the M-Care transaction that didn't go well. So again, when he brought me this brand and I had asked my team, they didn't respond to me. And I said, hey guys, I have a buyer that's willing to buy this because it's ready stock. And my buyer just sent me the 50% down and I'm ready to buy. And that's when they started to do the due diligence, and they looked at the logo, and they then sent me a purchase order from the company. They were actually buying gloves from us. So we reached out to the co-founder and we said, did you actually have an agreement to purchase, to actually have a logo put onto these gloves. And they said, no, these are counterfeit gloves. And so that was one of the signs. And but then I had other people kept offering me the brand, and I kept saying, it didn't pass my due diligence, so I'm not buying this. I'm not putting it in front of my buyers. And then the recent one was, and then the particular seller kept reaching out to me and said, I have 1 million bucks allocation and you should buy it. And my buyer said, well, Shafeela, they already have the top report. So why don't you want me to buy it? And I said, I truly connected them on an email. And I said, I don't want to run this sale through my company because it did not pass my due diligence. But if you're so eager to buy, reach out to this person. And then, of course, thank God the buyer didn't buy it, because again, I'm very black and white and I'm straight to the point. I said, it didn't pass our due diligence, but if you want to buy it, here's the contact person, gave the information, and then they ended up didn't buying it, but which I'm so thankful. That was my way of saying, stop, don't buy the brand.
Yeah,
I
I mean, this is something we have seen too. And so if you look at the sourcing industry, right? I mean, we've had brokers and traders for the longest time. It's not new. But if you so for example, in the apparel industry has had trading companies for the longest time, and there are some large trading companies like Lee and Fung and William E. Connors do a really good job, but they add value. So our partner and our co-founder Michael's company Headwind, for example, it's a trading company, 50 years old of trading company. They're adding value. They have people on the ground and they're doing something for you. We use their people to do our due diligence, and we send in people into the factories in Asia doing that. And then there are brokers. Brokers are basically they don't have any skin in the game, especially in PPE. Most of the brokers, they're not putting their name on the line. They're not putting their money on the line. They're not doing any of that, both on buyer side as well as supplier side. And they basically are trying to make these deals happen when they don't have control. And when you're a serious businessman, at least from my perspective, I ask my team, don't waste time. My sales team, I ask them, don't waste time with these brokers. It's waste of time. If they want a commission, we'll give them a finder's fee, as we give in the financial industry. We give them a finder's fee. Okay, fine. But you're not going to add value. Don't butt yourself in because you're spoiling the deal. You are not making things move for us. And then there is Real Factories. Real Factories, it's very easy. Most of their information is public. If you go onto the websites and if you check their backgrounds, there should be all the information that is necessary for you to verify them. Most of them will have that information. Even companies like us, right? I mean, we are a platform, but you can find everything about all the founders. So I'll just take my example. I don't want to talk about everybody else, but my example, the first thing when we build the website is, why not give publicly all of our information? What's there to hide? Who is the founders? What is our backgrounds? Can our LinkedIn's be connected to it? What are the products that we are selling? Why can't we give maximum information about the products that we are selling? Why do we have to hide anything, right? So there is that kind of due diligence is not very difficult to do, but people need to do that, and people need to spend time on that. People don't give importance to that fact, and that's why they fail, and that's why they come out as scammers, even though they don't want to be scammers. I know a lot of people who are in this trade and they're not scammers, they're good people, but they get into this and then they come out as scammers.
I don't think it's about scammers. You hit nail on the head that it's not them doing any work. I don't want to give brokers a bad name. There are some really good brokers that bring me KYC on people that when they show that they've done effort, that to me is okay. That's perfect. That means you want to earn. You've earned that. That saves me time. But what I have seen so far in PPE industry is that the brokers that are saying they're bringing the buyer are not the buyers. Then there are 6 people down, and that wastes a lot of my time. I can't get on for the same deal, get on Zoom calls with 7 different buyers to be. And then everybody has a different perception of who they're next to. But guess what? Each one that have connected me to the next person, to the next person, to the next person wants 20 cents per box. So from where I started to have 8.50 per FOB, now it's now at what, 10.50? And to me, that blows my mind. You cannot expect everybody has a place in the deal to make it happen, but everybody shouldn't expect the same amount of return, whether you're a facilitator, whether you're a broker. You have to identify yourself. Who are you in this deal? Or sometimes, not sometimes, I would say about, 80% of the time now, I'm not involved hands-on with every single deal. I divide and conquer. I trust the people that I have built my relationship with, I'm close with, I'm working with. So now I just say, this person is right next to the supplier, or this person's right next to the buyer. Let me just connect you two. And then you got to trust and let go. You cannot just have your head in like every single deal, because you will drive yourself crazy. You only have 24 hours, and I feel like I'm already working way too many hours.
Yes.
So I think we have to trust our network. We have to, of course, the people that you trust, not just everybody. But you cannot be involved in every transaction. You have to know your role, and then let buyer, seller, and both. There's always one person that's holding hands for the seller side and the buyer side. Those are sort of what they call
I will
mandates.
give you an example, Shafeela.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Doug. I was giving a
No.
live example between what Doug and I are doing, right? There is a big retail chain in the US that we are doing a deal with, and we're doing it for the rest of the year. But I had nothing to hide from Doug, that Doug, this is the buyer, and this is the buyer's address. This is the buyer's email. I need you to send samples to them. There's nothing to hide. If you are really dealing properly, you don't have to hide those things. And people want to sign these NCNDAs. Me and Doug have not signed any NCNDAs. We've done hundreds of thousands of dollars of business.
Yeah, but the thing is that customer is your customer.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you have a relationship with them. We would not get that deal without them. I would not get it.
Yeah.
And so there's no question about the lines here of relationship. In this case, Manesh is the broker. He has a clear relationship with this big company, and he brought it to me. He had the choice to bring it to other suppliers. He brought it to me. I'm super grateful. We're going to make a great partnership on this. That's a true brokerage relationship. The other one where somebody's skimming, somebody went on LinkedIn and said, I need 500,000 boxes or 500,000 gowns, next week. And then I get an in message from somebody saying, my customer is looking for 5,000. Your customer? Like, do you even know this guy? Are you even connected to him? Like 500 people saw that. And I get the same thing. I'll get like 5 people going, my customer needs 500,000 gowns. I'm like, dude, I saw the same thing. It's going to be my customer in a minute because I'm going to DM them. That's not your customer. How do you know them? You don't know them from a can of paint. So that's a difference. That's a true relationship where Nesh knows. And Shafeela, you have relationships with big players in that we're working with on some private label stuff in Canada. Those are clearly your customers. You know the ins and outs of them. It's not just some rando you picked up and, hey, you need some gloves? I got a guy. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to add value. Otherwise, there's no reason for it.
Let's segue into the next topic with that, which is contracts, right? And again, from all the three of your perspective, contracts is something which is very, very important. Contracts is something that needs to be signed properly, agreements need to be in place and all that. This NCNDA bullshit is really annoying to me. We still have to do that, but it's really annoying to me. But what is more important and what I think I give much more value to is these contracts and sales purchase agreements and the things that are involved into that and what terms you agree to. If there is delays, what are the terms you agree to? If there is, let's say right now, we've all faced Shafeela, we were talking that because of COVID or COVID restrictions, your shipment is delayed maybe 4 months or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, right?
New Year, but yes.
We had for COVID, I had shipments canceled or delayed because of COVID in Thailand or in Malaysia, and I openly talk about it. But the reality is these are beyond your control. But did you have it in your contract? Did you have something to protect you on your contract? And these are things that are important. Also, James, from your perspective, of course, not PPE, but you worked on multiple contracts, and you have, I mean, you have a lot of experience with financial contracts and the importance of those. So it is good to share that perspective as well and apply it to something of a gold rush that we are going through, or the nitrile rush that we are going through. How do we make sure that these contracts are tight, and what are the things you guys look at?
Okay. Well, it's very important to know which entity you're signing with, which country and entity you're signing with. I recommend going to this. A lot of the company structure is available. So it's public information. You you can, at the very least, go to the DNB website, and that's free. Go look up their DUNS number and some basic information. You can start from that. But yeah, yes, you need to know exactly who you're signing. There's data for that, and which entity. There's, of course, I'll let Doug and Shafeela go into more detail about that. Of course, we sign with different countries all the time, and it's for different. The customer wants different tax treatment and various reasons. So you just have to understand what you're doing there.
Okay. Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, so for me, I have two SPAs, right? Sales purchase agreements. One's going to go to my customer, one's going to go to the factory, right? So the factory normally has their own, and I just look for the things in there that are really important. But what I will tell you in today's day and age is there's more issues to do with force majeure, which is really a touchy area right now, because in the old days it didn't happen very often, but right now we have shipping issues at critical levels. We have overproduction in nitrile. We have over orders and underproduction in nitrile. We have COVID restrictions and COVID flare-ups and all these things. There's just no wind to our back at all with anything, and so all these things are causing delays. And so you have to make a decision. Do I call force majeure on this and go, look, I'm sorry, but this is, I can't get a ship out for 3 weeks. I don't know what to tell you. Or are you going to go back to being customer centric and say, look, I know it sucks and it's killing me too. But if you need your deposit back, I understand. So you can hide behind some of that stuff if you want. I've been tempted, but at the same time, look, I'd rather just give the money back, resell the order if I can. It's painful, but I think there's been a couple of times where I've just wanted to, curl up and cry and go, force majeure, I can't deliver. And I came back to my senses. I refunded money when I needed to. And look, there's delays in this business, and that's why I will always say to anyone, if you come to me and the biggest part of our discussion is time, I'm probably not your guy, because in this business with nitrile, you cannot bend time, or other PPE items. And it's really boiled down to gloves now, because everything else is pretty plentiful. There's a lot of inventory in the ground. So I'm sorry if I'm talking mostly about gloves, because there's also a lot of counterfeit and fraud activity going on with 3Ms. We could talk about that. It's been crazy. That's been big in the news. But it's really hard if somebody goes, well, how fast can you get them on the water? How fast can you get them done? When I tell somebody 30 days after their deposit, they're like, 30 days? This is a person that's very naive and has never done importing. And it's no offense to them, but they just don't understand. I couldn't order 12,000 socks in China and not wait 30 or 45 days, right? So that's just the standard on every product. Nothing is ready right away. So there's that. So I stay away from time, but again, the contracts are important, and it's just important to be super transparent. I normally will say, and everyone knows it's done anything with me, is like, I'm going to work the best I can to get your gloves inspected and on the water between 30 and 40 days. If I can't do that by 50 days, you have every right to ask for a refund on your deposit, and I'm happy to give it to you. And that's in my SPA.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did also, Doug, that we returned the cash. And like I told you, we have had situations where I had a few $1 million stuck with the supplier. Supplier did not give it back, but we had to personally take out our money and give it back to the buyer, and the buyer was pissed off. But it's like, what can we do? I mean, we can't deliver, then it's better I take away the cash and give it back to you.
Right. I had a Zoom call the other day with a guy that got on. He was pretty harsh, and he's like, "So after all this, what you're telling me is if I give you 50% deposit and you can't get gloves in the water in 50 days, all you do is give me my money back." And I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "I've heard enough." Click. And I was like, "I don't know. What you want me to give you that back and a trip to the Hawaii? What do you want from me? I don't know. You're lucky to get your money back."
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
that's what I want to explain to people, that if you can get your money back, that's good enough. Don't try to think about anything else for that, for at least in the gloves business, right? I mean, there is no other surety. Somebody who tells you that will give your money back, or your whatever money you paid them back, that's more than enough in this. Anybody else?
Non-performance bonuses, like, people talk to me about those.
Oh yeah, nobody's going to
Please
sign
tell
those.
me, please tell me how you're going to get that back from even some of my better factories.
Nobody's going
Just
to
say,
sign.
"Doug, nobody's going to pay that."
Yeah, people have asked me to sign. You say, "Oh, it's okay. You have a relationship with the factory, so you sign." I said, "No, but the factory won't sign, so I can't sign with you. Come on,
Right.
this is not how this is a seller's market. The seller, the factory, yeah, but you have good relations." I said, "No, the relationships don't matter. They have enough buyers. If I try to get them a bond, they're not going to work with me. That's it." Yeah.
Well, I will say the same thing. I did have to learn the hard way in the beginning, where my supplier will tell me, Shafeela, 20 days. And then this is 25 days and 30 days, and we're not even close to having SGS done. I usually now add 10 days what my Asian suppliers are saying, because it seems like the timeline is a little bit different for them than what it is for us. And I've also learned that North American buyers have zero patience, and they don't understand that. I'm sorry that I'm saying it out loud, but I do tell them as well when I get on Zoom call, because they want it today. They want it today, or ready stock. It's all about ready stock. And when can they go in the factory to see it? When can they send somebody to see it? Like, it's a showroom sort of thing. You go in and see it. And guess what? There is still COVID, as you know, I'm going to touch base on that, is that there's other ways to verify the supplier, but not everybody without an invitation from a factory can actually go in. But I think there are delays, but as long as you're honest with the exit buyer, and not everybody will understand why the delays are, but you have to be stern and you have to say, but what type of contracts that you always have the pro forma invoices, and based on how, after how many days can we have a refund if there is no manufacturing liability insurance and all that involved in it. I've been blessed to be working with people that I trust. So I don't have a challenge of giving money, putting deposit down. I've even done 100% TT out of my own money to try and get the gloves out quicker. But there are delays, and you can, but I just feel that it's easier to sell some of the other buyers that are in Malaysia or Dubai or UK. But when it comes to North American buyers, I feel like everybody needs it today, and everybody needed it yesterday, and everybody needs millions of gloves. And yeah, so I think the lesson is to be patient, and to make sure that you're ready to hear what's actually happening in the world in Asia. Don't expect, I know you have your own unicorn world built in, and your expectation is that you want to have them land and then sell it at the retail or on the water price. But just remember, there are existing orders that the factories have, the previous commitments. So we're not the only buyers. That's what I try to educate people, that there's a nationwide shortages for
Worldwide.
yeah, exactly. So it's not just
We
us.
only use about 15-20% of the world's nitrile. So we are not the biggest players in the
No,
US.
correct.
And we are by far the worst buyers. And mostly because, and I'll tell you why most of that is because of the way that PPE was set up prior to COVID. It was this very vertical very tightly controlled chain of 6 or 7 major distributors. And there were other distributors that, that branched off of that. And that completely collapsed in COVID. It just completely fell apart. But everybody that was buying from there, still thinks of that old model. And that old model isn't here today.
No.
I'll always tell people, somebody comes to me and says, I've been buying medical supplies, PPE for 25 years. And I'll say, hey, listen, I've been importing for 2.5 decades as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, nitrile is completely different. Gloves are completely different than anything I've ever done before. I might as well just be a neophyte. And the same with your 25 years of buying medical shit.
Yeah.
It just means nothing now.
Nothing.
We're in a whole new world, right? I'm on the exact same level as you, and we know nothing. I will try using my tried and true, methods that I've used to successfully import other products, and I'll try to get up on the learning curve as quickly as I can. And that's why, 10 months ago, I didn't know anything about nitrile, and now I feel like I know a pretty good amount. It's because I put the effort in because, I wanted to be in the business. But none of us have any background in this. This is a whole new entity. And then to your speaking about the factories being slow, look, it's always been the same thing, right? A salesperson at a factory wants to sell you something. They're going to promise that they're going to get it to you right away. Don't worry about it. It's all good, right? That's always been the way.
Yeah.
And until you've transacted with them a few times, you don't know whether that's a cry wolf or whether they're going to be real about that. In COVID, most of it, as with gloves, most of it's been a cry wolf. Most of it's been complete bullshit. And what I'll also say to people is what you don't understand if you haven't dealt with the Asian culture for a long time is you can't yell and scream at them. They don't respond to that, and they don't care.
No.
And so you cannot do it through yelling and screaming and threatening and doing all these crazy things. It's all about finesse. It's all about relationship. It's all about, they're embarrassed, you're embarrassed. How do you work through this? And so when people, that's the problem with our position. Like, I'm not a factory. I'm not building gloves here. I know some people that can, I know some factories that'll give you gloves. How far are they going to overpromise? And then that becomes my issue. If I can't find a ship, that becomes my issue. If I can't get them out of LA port, that's my issue, right? If I can't get them delivered by a truck for 2 weeks, that's my issue. Everything's our issue.
Yes. We get blamed for everything.
I'm just sitting in my living room.
That the contracts, no, but Doug, that's why these contracts are so important. And the contract need to have all these things clear. And I have had clients who have signed or suppliers who have signed the contracts and then said, hey, no, I didn't agree to this. I said, you signed the contract, you didn't read it? Oh, no, but that clause is not valid. I was like, no, but that clause is important. You have to read every clause. You can't have one clause. And no, I didn't accept that clause. I was like, you signed the agreement, my friend. So yeah, contracts are the only ways to go. I think we spent about 90 minutes on this. So we should open it to questions and answers.
Yes.
I think rather than continue on this discussion, it's better we open it to questions and answers.
Right. And hey, I did send you a sheet that I don't know if you can send out to people or anything. Did you get my PDF? I'm like, I sent that to you?
You sent it by email?
I sent it to you on WhatsApp. But it's like basically
we can send it to people.
All right.
We can send.
How do I get it to you?
You sent it to me by WhatsApp, so that's fine. People who have questions, they can put in Q&A or in chat.
Yeah, I had a list that said, like, here's how you can check here's the place you can go to check when a website was created. Here's where you go to check the 510K. Here's the device listing. Here's where to go to track a container, a bill of lading.
Sure.
Verify
I will share that all with everybody. I got it. And then Donna is asking a question. It's oftentimes a chicken and egg situation. Suppliers want to see proof of funds and other documents, etc. first, but then buyers also want to see proof of goods first. How would you go about solving this issue being either a supplier or a buyer?
Yeah, well, I had answered that, and I just said, look, a real supplier will show you his BOLs. He'll show you his history and his ability. Period. End of story. If you're hiding that, I don't know.
I
I
agree.
feel like I've never asked anybody for proof of funds because I'm not selling anybody $50 bazillion worth of stuff. My deals are 1, 3, 5, 7 million. You know, I don't know. By the time we get that far along, I know where they have the money. The money's not the issue. So I've never requested a proof of funds. But I feel like they have the ability, since they're looking to spend a lot of money with me, I have the responsibility to show them that I can do this for them. Otherwise, don't waste, I shouldn't waste their time. But I feel like most of the people that are saying, most of the people that are trying to get like bill of ladings and stuff may not really be the buyer. They may be a couple down from the buyer and not really be the buyer. That's my personal.
Yeah.
I can respond to that too. So for example, I have had some documents that I will get on a call and they'll say, this is the person that's the buyer. And then they'll say, yes, I actually have $10 million in Vietnam in my account and I will buy the superior lot that's ready stock. I'm giving you a very specific, I'm going to give you two specific examples.
Yep.
And then the person will say, Shafeela, I trust this person. So you can share SGS of this ready stock and affidavit. Once I will send that off, I would probably have sent it at 1 p.m. when I spoke to this gentleman. In the evening at 8 o'clock my time, I had same documents redacted, sent to me and offered to me 90 cents more. So it is very important for me that I don't share lot numbers and where it is at. And Doug, you already touched base that you may not want it. They may not be the exit buyer. So where I don't trust is sharing my documents. I have shown on Zoom. I have also shown it to the exit buyer that I've already worked with and said, here we go. This is what we have to sell. But what I have seen is every time I have opened up and shared the original documents, it's either come back with something with their own names on it or the company name on it. The reference numbers have changed or that things is the only, I would say that's the only thing that scares me because I'm not very tech savvy.
And is that more about ready stock and on the ground stuff? I think, right?
In
Because
Asia,
production-
that's Asia.
Yeah.
Yes, Asia.
Yeah, because production stuff for me, all I'm showing them is a history. These are things that have already landed and
That,
sold.
yes, I have
You know,
shown.
So anyway,
Yes,
somebody
so-
wanted to know.
so add to that, Doug,
Right.
like what we show is past bills of lading, right? And many of the bills
Right.
of ladings are not even in our name because they might be with the importer, like you said, or our buyer, but we
Yes.
have it there to show.
Yep.
We actually, unless until it's like a crazy amount of somebody is asking some random crazy 1 million, 2 million, there is no point of proof of funds. But all those buyers that are asking for those 1 million boxes and 2 million boxes, if you don't have their websites and emails that show their websites and they're sending you from Gmail, you already don't need anything else to show that they have a few $1 million. If somebody is saying, I want to buy 1 million boxes of gloves at $9, and they don't have, they're sending you an email from their Yahoo or Gmail, I'm sure I can say, okay, get away, man, leave it. It's not up to you. You're not going to be able to buy these.
Also, there's also scams on proof of funds. Once you show proof of funds, people can use that to either sell against or borrow against, or there's ways to parlay those proof of funds verifications to a nefarious means.
Yeah. And the
Somebody
other
was
thing,
asking about 3M 1860s.
yeah, before that, but before we even go, whether it is gloves or masks or any other products, there is all this talk about proof of life and also, right? And these videos and stuff. And it's like, we do videos, right? When our shipments are going out, you can go on our website and you can see the videos. But that is when we have factory and our production is on, and when the production is getting packed and shipped, that's when we do the videos. We don't do videos beforehand and show, oh, because I want to take your order, I'm going to write your name on this and put a newspaper. That's all bullshit. I don't know who started that thing.
I don't either.
I just don't get it. Okay, so somebody is asking, B Gamer is asking, can you please discuss availability of 3M 1860 mask? Do any of you want to take on that? Shafeela?
I've never touched a 3M mask because I just would not do well in prison. I mean, just look at me, it would be bad. And orange is not work for me either. But so I've never done it because it scared the crap out of me. And obviously rightly so, because tons of people are now starting to go to jail. So I don't know anything about it. Shafeela, I think you were doing something with them before, weren't you? You got some information.
Yes, there's two suppliers that I trust. So there are, and then again, there's suppliers that give you lot numbers and SGS. And then there is 3M does share which lots have been counterfeits. If the seller is genuine, you can verify them from 3M. So there's two distributors that I've worked with, and one is from Singapore, and one is out of US. So if you feel comfortable, get involved in it. However, I usually do the verification of the buyer, and then I say, here, this is who we're working with. This is the supplier. The only success I've ever had with closing from A to Z was just having it on the ground for one of the supplier that I was working with from Singapore, and he bought it pre-COVID, and he had his own, he was trying to sell it, and it was a very small quantity too. So I can't comment on, it seems like they are using, now I read an article that now they're making it in China too, I believe, and I can send that article to you, Manish, if you want to post it. There's a lot of people that are offering just crazy amount of masks, and that's something that's scary. So to me, it's I don't know what the exact amount is, because again, 3M is saying something else on their website, and then what the numbers I keep seeing, they just never match. So I'm a data person too, because I need to see it, and I need to be able to see who's selling it what. So there has been suppliers in USA, in Singapore, that actually show lot numbers and SGS. And then I had a gentleman, because we're talking about verifying sellers, I had a gentleman from New Jersey that had offered me SGS and something on the ground. And there's so many buyers that want the 3M 1860, and I'm talking about private buyers. And then I looked at the SGS, and that was counterfeit. So it was, you have to look at it. But so I don't personally know the total amount, because I keep seeing all these crazy numbers. But 3M keeps addressing that this is what they're making, and this is how much they're making. But then they also have all these other OEM factories in China or in other places that they're using too. So
No, but Shafeela, I will share something on that.
please do.
All these OEM factories that you are talking about, they cannot sell by themselves the 3M brand. They don't have the right. So anybody claiming to get you from China or elsewhere, unless until it's an appointed distributor of 3M, it's not the right deal. And I have stayed away personally from these because I don't think, first of all, if I am not appointed distributor of 3M, there's nothing I'm doing. I'm not adding any value to the deal. So then why should I be in that business? I mean, if you're, again, these are the brokers who want to make the quick money, who are trying to do these, but then they don't have access. If you're a broker, you don't have access to the 3M distributor. Don't even try. You're wasting your time. You will spend 6 months. See, the three of us here have spent so much time here. We have not done 3M deals. It says something, right?
Correct.
It says that it is not that easy. And then all these people wanting, I have had, I want 3 million 3M 1860, and I will pay you plus 10% here, 10 cents here, and all that. I just get so lost, and then I was like, too confusing. Just don't talk about it. I don't want to do these deals. So I think it's best to keep away from the 3M stuff as much as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good N95s out there, and it looks like, that looks like the government's starting to recommend that everybody get on the N95 kick from a mass standpoint. And even with that, I would still not go after 3M.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything else before we end? Any other questions? If you don't have questions, something else that any of the...
I have one thing. I had one thing.
Yeah.
And it was some that got given to me a couple of days ago, but there's been an awful lot of nitro blends hitting the marketplace.
Yeah.
A lot. And there was talk of like a lot of nitrols making their way from blends, making their way from China over to Thailand for repack as nitrols. And so somebody came to me today and was just asking me really quick. They were like, you know, can you look at this picture and tell me if these are real nitriles or not? 100% nitrile. So I just want to really clear with you guys. There is no 100% nitrile, right? Normally, a good lot is going to be about 85%, all the way down to almost 60% nitrile, right? The blends are about, I think they're about 15% or maybe even less. But the point is that if you really want to know very quickly, it's this. And I told the guy, I said, look, you want to know for sure? If you can blow a balloon, so that, and this is Hongre, you can't blow this up. Nitrile blends won't blow up, and they're shiny inside. So I'm just saying there's a lot of people that are buying nitriles right now that aren't nitriles really. They're blends, and they say they're nitriles. And so you just have to be really careful. That's going to be going on for a while.
We actually, I will ask my team to post some videos where we have done blow tests, and we have done also,
That'd be great.
Tests and stretch tests. And we've done it, I mean, in the office, but we have videos of that. And we've done it for different brands.
Yeah, I mean, the stretch test too. This is blend. You can't stretch it.
Yeah, we did the KC500, the Sweetrang. We did 5 different brands.
Amazing.
Yes.
And they all use a different amount, and it doesn't really matter. If one stretches a little bit more than the other, it's going to be percentage of nitrile or, you know, percentage of NBR. But for sure, the blends are, you know, about less than 15%, and that does not qualify for nitrile, and that is not truth in advertising on that. So
I was told by few suppliers that there is an overflowing inventory of blends, and I see that in Canada too right now.
Yep.
And one
Same
more final question before, guys, we close this is, what are your thoughts on Honeywells that are seeping into the market? Do you think these are counterfeit too? Yes, my personal opinion, yes, if they are Honeywells not sold by Honeywell and their distributors, they're counterfeit.
Same thing with Hartalega, Cranberry, KC5, Kimberly-Clark, Cardinal, all of those. You're not going to see those in the open market, period. They're unattainable.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard also, I got to verify this because I don't want to put out false information, but there was a big explosion in a nitrile factory in Thailand tonight. My guy that I did my interview with, Michael Green, that private investigator, Israeli police dude, he sent me some pictures of it.
Oh.
Do you know which one?
Before I say, he told me he thought which one, but before I say, I want to double check.
Yeah, double check that information. But thank you, guys. This is great information. I think, like I said, the recordings will be available for those that missed out, and for everybody to learn from the discussion we had. We'll continue doing these panel discussions almost monthly, and we'll try to bring in new topics. I'm really thankful to each one of you panelists. James, thank you again for being an amazing partner for us at Buyhive, but also sharing the knowledge that you shared today about the data, importance of data and data analytics. And I surely give a lot of importance to this in the future of sourcing generally. And Doug, your knowledge of the nitrile industry, what you do on LinkedIn, amazing. Keep doing it. And I am sure we are doing a lot of business together, so we'll keep talking, and hopefully we'll do much more business together also in the gloves market.
I appreciate it. And James, it was a pleasure meeting you.
And
Very nice meeting you.
Good to connect, and hopefully we can do some deals together also, and we can work together. If there is anything in Asia, especially in China, if you need our help, not just in PPEs, but any sourcing, we are happy to help.
Perfect.
Thank you. And everybody who attended.
Have this time here too, huh?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
People are staying. I mean, people have stayed 90 minutes plus, which is not normal. And everybody almost stayed, so which is great. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Thanks,
Bye.
James. Appreciate
Pleasure.
it. Shafeela, Manesh,
Nice
thank
meeting you,
you.
James. Thanks, Manesh.